Right, it was very nice of him to do that, because then I've got to get you all to be quiet. But anyway, so children, if you would like to go with Christine, children, you are going to hear the same story that I'm going to tell the adults. So I'd love you to have a conversation with your mum and dad when you get back, because they will have heard the same story. Except actually, I'm going to tell you 2 stories. You're lucky. You get 2 stories, they only get 1 story. But never mind. The first story is not from the Bible. It goes like this. Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall. Humpty Dumpty had a great fall. All the king's horses and all the king's men couldn't put Humpty together again. There you go, first story. Okay. Now, don't think I've gone crazy. Well, you might think I've gone crazy. Just bear with me for a moment. Can we just think about poor Humpty Dumpty for a moment? Put him back on the wall, can you please, Ian? Thank you. Why is Humpty Dumpty on the wall in the first place? Why did Humpty Dumpty fall off the wall? Was Humpty Dumpty pushed? Did peer pressure, did worrying about what I should eat, what I should look like, who I should be, chasing after his own desires, finally push him over the edge? Or maybe, thinking of Proverbs 16 verse 18, where it says, if you are proud, you will be destroyed. If you are proud, you will fall. Maybe Humpty Dumpty was proud. Maybe he had a higher than an excessively high opinion of himself and his own importance. Maybe Humpty Dumpty was just always trying to do the right thing, be the right person, follow the rules, be and think of himself as better than other people. Maybe pride pushed Humpty Dumpty over the wall. Humpty Dumpty's sitting there lonely and on his own. Why is he on his own? Where are all his friends? Why has he isolated himself? Why has he pulled away from people? Maybe he's not a very nice character. Maybe he's been a bit mean. Maybe he's a bit different than other people. And maybe he's been left alone. Maybe he's bitter and angry. Or maybe a storm came along and blew Humpty Dumpty off the wall because he wasn't sitting there very strongly and he got pushed over by a huge gust of wind. Whatever it was, Humpty Dumpty fell off the wall. And Humpty Dumpty, we leave poor Humpty Dumpty all in pieces on the ground, broken and in pieces. Try not to cry, it's all right. It gets better, I promise. But it reminds me of another story of 2 brothers. Another story that the most eloquent and creative and divine storyteller told us, and that is Jesus. Jesus told us a story about 2 brothers. Now, those brothers, I'm hesitating to say to you, were both broken and in pieces as well. But often we look at the younger brother in this story and think that he is the one that is broken. But we're going to look at both of those brothers this morning. This story is so well crafted by Jesus. It has the whole gospel story in one story. It carries over all ages. All ages understand it. All cultures understand it. And it's just so familiar because we can relate to one of those characters in that story. And we're going to read that story now. Now, I need to run around. Tom, you're first. Tom. Tom needs to come in. Tom. You can run with that. Okay, here we go. We're going to hear the story by 7 of our people. Here it comes.
There was a man who had 2 sons. The share of the estate, so he divided his property between them.
Please stand up when you're the next one so Wayne knows.
He said, "How many of my father's hired servants have food to spare? And here I am starving to death. I will set out and go back to my father and say to him, 'Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Make me like one of your hired servants.' So he got up and went to his father. But while he was still a long way off, his father saw him and was filled with compassion for him. He ran to his son, threw his arms around him, and kissed him.
The son said to him, 'Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son.' But the father said to his servants, 'Quick, bring the best robe and put it on him. Put a ring on his finger and sandals on his feet. Bring the fattened calf and kill it. Let's have a feast and celebrate. For this son of mine was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found.' So they began to celebrate.
Meanwhile, the older son was in the field. When he came near the house, he heard music and dancing. So he called one of the servants and asked him what was going on. 'Your brother has come,' he replied, 'and your father has killed the fattened calf because he has him back safe and sound.'"
The older brother became angry and refused to go in. So his father went out and pleaded with him. But he answered his father, 'Look, all these years I've been slaving for you and never disobeyed your orders. Yet you never gave me a young goat so I can celebrate with my friends. But when this son of yours who has squandered your property with prostitutes came home, you killed the fattened calf for him.'
"My son," the father said, "you were always with me, and everything I have is yours. But we had to celebrate and be glad, because this brother of yours was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found."
Well done. Thank you. Great storytelling from us all. Very good. There are lots of paintings and images done of that prodigal son story. Here's a few that I really like. Just flick through those reasonably slowly. That one there. Carry on. Now this one. Who painted this one? Rembrandt, correct. Rembrandt painted this painting just soon before he died, around about, they say, between 1665 and 1667. Van Gogh said of Rembrandt's painting, "You can only paint this type of painting when you have died many times and know the mercy of God." There is so much in this painting. This is not an art lesson, so I'm not going to go into all the details of that. But it is a beautiful painting of a son, a bedraggled son, one sandal missing, absolutely filthy, worn out. No, not a bit fast, Ian. Absolutely worn out, being embraced by his father. And the older son just there next to him with his robe on, standing and watching. So let's have a look at the story. Just leave that slide up. That'll be great for a moment, thanks. The son had asked for land for his share of the inheritance. Basically, he was saying, "Dad, I wish you were dead. I'm not interested in what you think about my life. I want to do it my way. I want to go ahead and do it. I don't care about you. I'm going to do it whatever you want for my life. I'm not listening. I'm going to do it my way." Anyone heard that before? You Anyone said that before? Maybe we have heard that in our life before. So the oldest son would have been able to get 2/3 of the land. Once the father died, the older son would have got 2/3 and the younger son would have got 1/3. So the father had to sell 1/3 of his land. Now in this culture, land was very, very important. A little bit like Tūranga Waiwai here, it is the identity. The people had an identity with the land. In Greek, actually, the word property is bios, is the same word that we get life from. So there was a real connection with the land. So the father is humiliated. The father has gone down in social standing because he has sold off part of his land. He now only has a smaller share of land than what he used to have because the son has decided to go off and party. He's decided, here's the slide now, Ian, party slide. He has decided to go off and party in the world, see what the world can offer him. But as we heard, he loses it all. Oh my gosh, isn't Jesus an amazing storyteller? He's left to feed the pigs. Jews don't eat pigs, do they? And so the fact that the son was left in a pig pen is the ultimate low of the low of the low of the low that you could possibly go. Then he even wished that he could eat the corn cob. Not his own corn cob. I mean, who wants to eat a corn cob? I mean, you know, like he wants to eat the cob that hasn't even got corn on it because the pigs have already eaten. I mean, that is low. How much lower can you get than that? He must have felt broken and in pieces. But he came to his senses. He realizes that he has sinned, not only against God, but against his own family, against his father. And bravely and courageously, because I do believe it took him a lot of courage to turn around and to go back. And then again, we see the father humbling himself. He sees his son in the distance. He hitches up his robe, which for a start is not very good for a man of standing in the community, to lift up his robe. And then he runs towards his son. He must have looked quite stupid. He takes off his own cloak, which is a sign of his position in the community. He wraps his cloak around his son. He takes his ring, the symbol of authority, the symbol of belonging to a family. He takes his ring off and he gives it to his son. That robe was a sign of dignity and honor, and he wraps it around his dirty son. He brings him shoes, the symbol of a son. A slave did not wear shoes. A son wore shoes. His dad took off his place of standing. And all this, not in the secret, right in front of everybody in the broad daylight, in front of the whole community, and gave it to his son instead. What a transaction. The son totally didn't deserve it. But the father gave it freely. Then he killed a cow. Not a goat, a cow. He was going to have a big party, a big barbecue. There's a lot of meat on a cow, right? We know that, don't we? It's not a little goat, it's a cow. He killed the whole fatted, a fat one even, a fatted calf, it says. That was a big party. He was not going to just have oh yay, my son's home, let's just have a little nice family dinner together with the 3 or 4 of us. He was opening it to the whole community. There was a cow's worth of food there for everybody. My son is back. My son is in relationship with me. We have been restored and healed. He is my son again. What a party. What love the Father was showing to his son. Meanwhile, we have the older son at home, working really hard, doing everything, not being reckless, pleasing his father, doing all the right things. And he hears what the father has done. How is he feeling? He's watched all this time while the younger son's off having his party, spending all his money. He's been at home watching, working hard, watching how sad his father is. Verse 21 and 23, it says, he heard how the father had humiliated himself again, ran and given his robe, all this in front of the whole community. That older son is feeling slacked off. He didn't even get a goat. He's very proud of the rules that he has been keeping, of the appearance of good and righteousness that he has been upholding, but actually he is far away from the Father too. He has been trying to do the right thing, but actually inside, that older son is broken and in pieces too. And then again, we see the father humiliating himself, but this time for the older son. He's got this party going with the whole community that the grumpy young older son is not going to go to. He leaves that party, again humiliating himself, leaving a party, leaving his guests, and to go and find this grumpy old son, the one who's isolated himself, the one who is embittered, the one who he has invited into the party but refuses to come. He says, come on, come and join us, you're welcome. He pleads with his son. But the grumpy son says, all these years I've been slaving for you and never disobeyed you, and all you've given me is a goat. It's not fair. Now, the older son's role in this culture should have been a mediator for the younger son and the father. He should have been the one that was trying to get the father and the son back together. But again, the father took up that role. He chose to step out and be the one that put himself there. The reality was that neither son loved the father or understood how much the father loved them. They both just wanted what they could get for themselves. The greatest character in this book, I believe, is the father. The extravagant love that he bestows on his sons. He bears the humility, pays the cost, even though his love was turned down, scorned at, yet he chose to give it again and again. He turns to run, he turns to hug, to embrace, he turns to give his robe, his ring. He leaves the party to plead with his sons, saying, you are mine, you are welcome, come home, you are always with me. Do you know the word prodigal means reckless and extravagant? So we put that title onto the younger son because he was reckless and extravagant with wasting money. But I think it is also a word that we could put onto the father, because the father was reckless and extravagant with his love. Reckless what I mean by reckless and a definition of reckless, is that he did it without thinking of himself. So it's almost like, that's crazy. Why would you do that? What are you thinking? You're not even thinking. You're doing it. It's so crazy what you're doing. That's where we get the word prodigious from, prodigal. So the father, in the love that he poured out, not only to his younger son, but to his older son too, was extravagantly, scandalously, recklessly incredible. There's only one point, you'll be pleased to know, to this sermon this morning. Only one point. Here it comes. If you don't remember anything else about Humpty Dumpty or anything, this is the only thing I want you to know. You are the beloved child of God. You are the beloved child of God. The father was grieving for both of his sons. One of the sons leaves the father in search of acceptance and love by chasing his desires in the world, trying to fulfill that need inside him in the world. The other one stayed behind and tried to fulfill his need for intimacy and love by acts of service, by trying to be good, by trying to obey all the rules. But he built up a wall of resentment, bitterness, and actually became isolated from others and from his family. Neither of them learned to love the Father or knew or accepted how much the Father loved them. Both of them were in pieces and were broken. As I said at the start, this story covers and relates to us all because so often we can relate to one of those brothers. Where do you find yourself this morning? We all have desires. We all want to search for intimacy. We all long for things. We all want to be accepted and loved. And these are right feelings. God has put them there because they're meant to propel us, push us towards Him. They're meant to make us lean into God. God wants to meet us there. But we have to choose. We can run off and do whatever we want to do. We can chase the world's things, try to fulfill our life in that way. Or we can try and be good. We can put up masks. We can look like we're following the rules on the outside, but inside we can be lonely, bitter, and angry. Neither of these work in the long run. Both of these will leave us empty, hurting, hungry, unfulfilled, bitter, and feeling like we're in a piece of rubbish on the floor, in pieces and broken. Jeremiah 29, verse 11 says this, 11 to 14 actually. I'm going to read it. I actually had it up there in that version that you can see, but I'm going to read it out of another version that I was reading this morning, and I felt that was better for what I was trying to say. So I'm going to read it out of the Message version. I'll show up and take care of you as I promised and bring you back home. I know what I'm doing. I have it all planned out. Plans to take care of you, not abandon you. Plans to give you the future you hope for. When you call on me, when you come and pray to me, I'll listen. When you come looking for me, you'll find me. Yes, when you get serious about finding me and want it more than anything else, I'll make sure you won't be disappointed. I'll turn things around for you. I'll bring you back from all the countries into which I drove you. I will bring you back home. We can try and fulfill our desires our way, chasing or hiding, but like Jeremiah 29:11 says, God always has good for us, and He has a future of hope for us. We are the beloved child of God. You are a beloved child of God. He extravagantly, ridiculously, recklessly, outrageously loves you. All he has belongs to you because you are a son or a daughter of God. He is running to meet you. He would leave the celebration to meet you. He invites you. He wants to wrap his robe of authority around you. He wants to give you his ring, his belonging into the family. It's all for you. Do you know? No, I'm putting no here, not here. Do you know the extravagant love the Father has for you? And he invites you to his party, to his celebration. At the end of the story, Jesus says, he was lost, but now he is found. All that matters to God is that you find your way home. So this morning you might be feeling like one of the sons, that you've done something wrong and you don't believe God could ever forgive you. You may have wandered off doing your own thing, thinking you know best. Or you may be trying to do the right thing, trying to please God, trying to do things for God. Or you might feel like Humpty Dumpty, just broken and in pieces. No matter where you are, the Father goes out of his way and has created a party for you. Just bend it a little bit. Through the death and resurrection of his Son, the Father has made a way for you to come home to him. The party is for you. This party is for you, the beloved child of God. And Jesus has made that way. Will you come to the party? Will you come home to the party? As we take communion now, we are invited into this celebration the Father has prepared for us. As you respond to this invitation, as you come up and take, I want people to come up and take communion this morning back to their seat. As you come up to take the communion, imagine the Father putting the robe on you. Or imagine the ring of his authority, the ring of his belonging in the family going on you. Maybe you want to imagine the smell of a fatted calf being barbecued for you. It's all for you. Receive the sandals that belong to a son, not to a servant. Know that you are recklessly, outrageously, scandalously, incredibly loved by the Father and invited home. In your own time, please come to the communion table. Please come to the party that the Father has prepared for you. Take the communion. You might like to take it there, or you might like to take it and sit at your own seat with it. It's up to you. Just take that in your own time.